Hi everyone, and welcome to the MASU's 2021 Annual General Meeting, AGM. Thanks for joining us today here on YouTube and on Facebook. We're happy that you're able to make it and to tune in to hear a little bit from the entire executive team about what we've been up to this year and how our organization is doing in terms of what we've been doing, where we're going, and thoughts moving forward. So with that being said, my name is Jonathan Ferguson. I'm the 2020-2021 MASU president, and today is my last day. So, it's really been quite an extraordinary year. Being in this position, our team, being in this position during COVID. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about has to do with how we handled the pandemic and thoughts moving forward about, our organization's priority from here. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about those projects, some of the things we did, and my thoughts. So on that note, I'll get right into it, and I have a few notes up here, so if I'm looking up, that's what I'm looking at. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the major wins of the year. So a few of the big things that happened this year, first of all, the biggest win is making it through COVID, right? This has been a year that from beginning to end was defined by how the pandemic impacted our services, our advocacy, everything we were doing as an organization and as a community. Right from the beginning, we were involved with the town and with the university in the Sackville bubble and in preparations to bring students back safely, help them get through the quarantine 14-day period back in August, which already feels like a lifetime ago, and then do orientation. And so that brings us to one of the first really big wins of our year. We were able, as an organization, alongside Mount Allison University, our partner in orientation, to run orientation in person in August of 2020. So that was really an extraordinary feat, and a big part of that is Christy Earls. Christy Earls absolutely led an incredible orientation committee and team in preparing for a hybrid event where we were able to have a lot of things in person outside and a lot online as well. And the university was incredibly supportive. The whole team was on board. The MASU executive, we were there visiting volunteers in person for every day that orientation and move-in day was happening. And it was really extraordinary way to start the year by seeing our community come together and achieve an in-person orientation when almost no other university in Canada was able to do that. So that was really exciting. The next thing we had occur was with regard to the election. So we had an instance of voter suppression, student voter suppression during the election. The MASU in particular, I want to thank the VP External Sydney Thorburn and the VP Student Life Anna Penny, as well as several students at large and the whole team really, for the advocacy they did on the ground there to make sure students who were eligible to vote were able to vote. Sometimes this meant students having to go back to the poll up to 4 times actually to be able to finally vote when they had the right documentation, they had a copy of their lease, they had lived in Sackville for more than 40 days, all of the rules were being followed, and they were still being told they couldn't vote because they were a student. And so that was really an extraordinary situation. It's not something that has happened to the best of our knowledge in New Brunswick anytime in recent history or anywhere in Canada. So we were involved in advocacy for months following that. We were involved in investigation, and this was discussed in committee as well in Fredericton. And the situation is ongoing, but there's going to be changed electoral laws in New Brunswick with regard, potentially changed electoral laws in New Brunswick. There's a discussion going on right now with regard to how CROs and DROs who run electoral offices are appointed. And that is in no small part due to the advocacy that we did as an organization when we saw that students were being denied the right to vote. So again, not something that a students' union typically gets involved with, but it was something that in this very strange year we did get involved with, and it's definitely one of the things that I'm proudest of this year. And I know that our Vice President, External Sydney, might be talking about it a bit more in her presentation, so I'll let her talk about that soon. The next big win was pass-fail. So for many of those who were returning students, you'll remember that last year in March of 2020, April 2020, a discussion began throughout Canada at many universities about whether or not pass-fail, a system where you should be able to just take a pass instead of your letter grade, should be implemented at Mount Allison due to the nature of COVID and the fact that our semesters had been upended very quickly and things were changing very quickly. And so the previous MASU executive was successful in getting pass-fail last year, a year ago. We realized that throughout the year, throughout the fall. Things had been quite turbulent. There was a lot of, there's a couple of other things I'm going to get into as well that we were doing in the fall, and it was quite a tense experience on experience on campus for many students. And what we decided was, okay, you know what, this has not been a normal semester either. We need to do everything we can to push for the pass-fail option to come back, and this time specifically for students to be able to see their grades first and then decide if they wanted to do pass-fail, because that's something that we got a lot of feedback from students about being an important distinction. So we heard that our odds of getting this passed in Senate were slim, to be totally honest. We developed a plan. We spoke to every voting member on Senate that we could. A big thank you to Vice President Academic Charlie Burke, as well as a couple of other senators. I want to mention Kara Bubar, she also spoke, and to the provost who spoke on our behalf as well, Jeff Hennessy. These individuals speaking in Senate were no small part of what led to an incredibly interesting conversation that not only was successful in pass-fail becoming the option that we voted through, but we also had some really interesting conversations about the idea of failing altogether and whether or not students should even be able to fail because of the pandemic or just in general. That was to me fascinating, because here we were in the middle of a pandemic in a university senate, and everyone's actually talking about the entire notion of modern grading systems in Canadian universities. That's something that I hope we continue moving forward. I wish that there was more time to do it this year, but I very much hoped to come back to that conversation in Senate and talk about, whether or not it's time to revisit grading systems as they exist in Canada, because it's not like there's one central authority for this sort of thing. This is the sort of thing that starts at universities like Mount Allison and bodies like the Senate. So that was really interesting, and I hope we come back to that as an organization in the future. There was a lot of advocacy during a variety of events that I'm not going to get into right now because we're trying to keep this short, but we were really happy this year to engage in greater consultation. We did our very best to connect with students. It was very, very challenging because of the pandemic and because we weren't able to really see students in person that much at all this year, but we did our very best to reach out to do some direct democracy. We experimented with using Instagram polls as a way to get quick feedback. We also sent out several surveys. Speaking of which, I sent out a survey a couple of days ago, yesterday. And I'm happy to go through the results of this survey a little bit. It's a performance questionnaire. We haven't got a huge number of responses, but we did get quite a few responses pretty quickly. And it's exciting to see that a lot of students were generally satisfied with the MASU services this year and with the advocacy, quite a few, honestly. And I'm looking at roughly half of students, a majority of students indicated that they were either satisfied with our advocacy and with our services as a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5. Over 50% of students said that they were quite satisfied with our services. And what's really exciting is a lot of students said that they had confidence in the MASU. And in fact, a majority of students indicated that their confidence in the MASU grew this year compared to previous years. And that's really exciting because we've really, really been trying to connect with students and form this relationship of trust and confidence, because it's really important to us that students believe in their union. They realize that this is by students for students. It is far from perfect. There is always things that we can be doing to improve our organization, to improve our consultation, and to improve representation. And it's really exciting to see that we've taken some steps that are clearly going in the right direction, because so many students, again, a majority of students responding to this poll, along with a lot of other feedback we received before today, are saying that their confidence grew a little bit, or potentially more than a little bit. And again, we realize that there's a lot of ways to improve, but it's very exciting to see that we're going in the right direction. And so that's something that I'm really excited to see the next executive continue. And so on a couple other final notes, we were able to completely relaunch our website in only 4 months. Huge thank you to Vice President Communications, Mickey Davey, who's going to be going on about that in our next segment. And there was a lot of really elaborate behind the scenes organization, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or reorganization, as we figured out, okay, how do we prepare our organization to work during a pandemic? How do we have all of our files available to us on the cloud securely so that we're able to expedite the process for sharing files, increase our organizational efficiency, and be prepared to go work at home should things go online again? So that's one thing that I was really excited about, and that's something, that's a big VPFO, Vice President of Finance Operations, win there, and Michael Nolan will be talking about that shortly. So I'm already a little over 10 minutes, so I'll start to wrap up here. It's been a year with a lot of wins, a lot of trust building, a lot more advocacy, but I want to end on highlighting the importance that we have as an organization to continue to be allies to all students, and that means remembering to always consult with BIPOC students, 2S LGBTQIA+ students, and students with disabilities, right? This is something that we've had come up throughout the year. We've had voiced to us many times from students from all of these groups that in the past the MASU has not been adequate at doing this, and that we have ways we need to improve on. And that's something that I think that the incoming executive team should consider. One thing I hope we can do going forward is create a consultation mechanism or some sort of internal decision-making policy that we follow when we consult with groups before making decisions. Because the last thing we should be doing is making decisions on behalf of groups or decisions that affect groups without consulting with those groups. It's very, very important to remember why we're here as an organization. We weren't elected because, we know things, and therefore once we're elected we have this mandate to go off and do whatever we want. That's not what this is. We're elected to serve students. We're here for students. We're here working on students' behalfs, and that means listening to students and taking their feedback into consideration, and never losing sight of why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. And so on that note, I want to say thank you to all students for giving me the chance to be your president. It's been a huge honor to serve in this role. And I want to give a special thank you to Charlie, to Sydney, to Venna, to Mickey and Mikey, as well as our general manager, Joy, and our staff, Lindsay and Nancy. It has been an incredible honor working with you. And I know that the organization is in great hands moving forward, with so many of you sticking around with Charlie coming in as the new president. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning into the AGM tonight. I'm excited to hand things over now to Charlie, our Vice President, Academic Affairs, and incoming MASU President.
Okay. Hi, Mounties. Welcome to the MASU AGM. My name is Charlie Burke, and I am the MASU VP Academic Affairs for this year, and I'm very excited to share with you all the work I've been up to this year. Okay, so I'm going to use my time to talk about Nimbus, OERs, Senate motions, academic affairs, including policies, teaching and TA awards, panels, and such. But let's start with Nimbus. So Nimbus is a tutoring app that we partnered with for the first time this year, and the MASU partnered with Nimbus as well as the Meehan Center and academic support to bring this to campus. So I've got a little flyer for it right here, but essentially Nimbus is an app that you can download from the Google Play Store or the App Store, and it allows you, once you sign in with your Mount A email and select Mount A as your institution, to see all the tutors for different courses at Mount A. So we've been trying to onload peer tutors, and we've successfully onloaded about 100 peer tutors this year, and 200 students have signed up to use the app to access tutoring services. So on the app, you can see the courses that are available, the tutors that are available for those courses. You can see the times the tutors are available. You can chat one-on-one with your tutors. You can use the video feature so that you can access your tutors completely online, and you can also pay your tutors through the app. And there's also tech support if you ever need help. So that's been really great. We've had over 650 sessions completed alone this year, and that's not counting the exams that I haven't gotten the statistics for yet. So it's been very successful in its first year, and we will be partnering for another year along with the Meehan Center and academic support. So if you want to access Nimbus, as I said, you can download it from an app store, or if you're looking for a little bit more information, you can talk to the Meehan Center if you're a Meehan Center student, or there is a tutoring page on Moodle. If you search up courses, there is a course page for tutoring, and you can see all the information there, as well as on the MASU website on the academics page. You can see all the info for tutoring, as well as, thanks to the Chem and Biochem Society, a little graphic on how to sign up or become a tutor. Okay, so the second thing I want to touch on is Senate motions. So this year, the MASUs had a very successful year in Senate. We proposed 2 motions, both which passed without any amendments. So the first motion we made in the fall semester, and that was pass-fail. And in addition to last year's pass-fail motion, this year's looked a little bit different because students were able to choose whether or not they wanted a pass, a P, or a conditional pass, a CP, on their transcript after they got to review their final grades. And as well, the conditional pass was something that students had to opt out of. So any student who had less than a pass was automatically, their grade was converted to a conditional pass unless they opted out. So that was very exciting, and I'm very thankful for all my amazing student senators who helped us prepare this motion for Senate. Okay, and the second motion that we successfully passed in Senate was what we've been calling the suspensions on suspensions motion, which was a moratorium on suspensions and dismissals for this academic year. So essentially, in a typical year, if a student had a low cumulative GPA, they might be asked to take a suspended leave of absence or be dismissed from the university. And this year, students will no longer be dismissed, as we recognize that the pandemic has affected students differently, and we don't want them to have to take a break if they feel that they're ready to come back next year and not have to. So that doesn't mean that students necessarily won't be put on academic probation still. There'll still be academic support that you'll be able to access, and that will reach out to you if you are infected in this case, but you will not have to take a break unless you want to. Yeah. So the third thing I want to talk about this year is the work that the Academic Affairs Committee got up to. So first I want to start by thanking all the members of that committee for the work they did. So this year, Academic Affairs worked on 2 policies. The first one we passed in council was the policy on Indigenous faculty hires. So that will be shown to university and the University Senate Planning Committee to show them how students support the hiring of Indigenous faculty members. As well, the second policy that we worked on was experiential learning policy that's full of recommendations to help the university understand how they can help remove some of the barriers so that students can better access experiential learning. Okay, so to wrap things up for academic affairs, some other things that we did this year were the Teaching and TA Awards. So the TA winner was Cole Shmolansky, and as well, the Teaching Award winner was Fraser Turner. Some other things we did was held a academic integrity webinar in conjunction with the library, which can be found on the library website. And we also held a few other panels throughout the year that you may have seen during winter orientation or just some other online academic tips and tricks for success that we hosted. And we also paired with the Wellness Interns week to do a panel there as well. So thank you for everyone for all their work on that committee. Okay, and finally, to wrap things up, I want to talk about open educational resources. So open educational resources are essentially free textbooks. So they're online, they're open for anyone to access. So whether that's a professor, a student, a researcher. So we're hoping that faculty start to adopt these more, and that as well that students are aware that they're out there. So if they're struggling to find resources for a textbook or a presentation or anything like that, they're able to access these. So they can also be, as well as textbooks, they can be like open articles, online videos, things like that. And there's huge repositories such as OpenBC, and as well our Council of Atlantic Libraries has just been creating a repository for students to be able to access these resources. So this year I sat on a committee of Maritime Student Union, VP Academics and Externals, and we worked on creating a student week, student awareness week about OERs, where we created some materials and shared them on our social media throughout that week, as well as I held a Q&A and did some info sessions on open access resources and what they are. Some more things that we did is we created some articles for faculty campaigns so they can be aware of what grants are out there for them to create their own open educational materials. And then finally, I've been working very closely with the librarians to create a report so students can easily look and read what are OERs, how can I access them, and as well faculty can read what are OERs, how can I create them, how can I share them with my students, and that type of thing. So yeah, if you have any questions on any thing I touched on or want to know any other work that I've got up to, that was kind of a broad overview of my 4 main things, but I'd be very happy to talk. And yeah, good luck to next year's VP Academic, Rohan.
This year has been absolutely insane. I did not expect to be dealing with a global pandemic when I was running for the MASU. However, I am very grateful for the opportunity I've been given to represent students as the Vice President External Affairs through all of the unprecedented events that we faced this year. For the AGM, I wanted to highlight a few of the successes that I've been able to accomplish this year. However, none of these wins go without the help of many other individuals within Sackville, the MASU, and the university community. First, I wanted to talk about how I've been able to build better relations with the town of Sackville. This has been an area of advocacy for many VP externals before me, and is something that we've been able to achieve slowly but surely. This year, that work's been done through being a member of the Tantramar COVID-19 Task Force and the Mount A Town Working Group. The Tantramar COVID-19 Task Force was an initiative constructed to bring together individuals from across the Tantramar region to address the gaps of issues plaguing communities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This includes individuals from communities all across the region, as well as business people, students, young families, staff of school districts, and more. Through these working groups, we've aimed to, through the Tantramar COVID-19 Task Force, there have been created working groups to address issues related to mental health, physical health, economic and business development, and food security. That's it. And I sat on several of these action groups throughout the summer, and that was a huge part of my work. Hi everyone, I'm Sydney, and I'm the outgoing Vice President External Affairs for the MASU this year. The Vice President External Affairs handles everything external from campus. I work very closely with the municipality of Sackville, and I'm also a primary delegate in both our federal and provincial advocacy organizations, the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, and the New Brunswick Student Alliance. With that, I work very hard to build relationships between students and the town, as well as doing advocacy to both the federal and provincial government to advocate for student wants and needs to better improve the quality of post-secondary education. I also oversee programs like the Bike Co-op, the Airport Shuttle, the Food Box Program, and the Housing Directory. I'm the primary contact for any off-campus housing initiatives within the town, and I work very hard to represent students as best as I can within this capacity.
Hi everyone, my name is Benna Penny. I use the pronoun she, her, and I was this year's MASU Vice President Student Life. So I'm coming to the end of 2 terms in this role with the MASU, and I'm very grateful for the work I've gotten to get done and the people I've gotten to work with, all in service of you and creating a better community here at Mount A and a better experience for you as students. So the MASU VP Student Life's position, it's actually a very broad portfolio. It impacts everything that impacts students outside the classroom will fall under this position, and that includes accessibility, student safety, alcohol harms reduction, student wellness, health and wellness, so mental health, physical health, and sexual health as well. Campus life, so clubs and societies, residence life, entertainment. So in this position, I have several staff members who all make it possible for this work to get done. This year, the Accessibility Affairs Coordinator was Hannah Kraus, the Campus Life Coordinator was Brandon Pinio, the Health Services Coordinator was Maggie Pickard, the Entertainment Director, Hadley Rawling, the Assistant Entertainment Director, Robin Simmons, as well. In first semester, we had an International Student Affairs Coordinator, Harissa Scaff. So without them, I would have a much harder time getting anything done, and I'm very appreciative for the hard work they put in this year. And some of them, it was their second year stepping into these roles as well. So nothing would get done without them. Very grateful for them and the work they do. So I'm going to talk a bit now about what has been achieved this year in this role. And it was a busy year for sure. A difficult year. A lot of the work that I do, specifically I think like clubs and societies, residence life, entertainment, those encompass a lot of, in a normal year, in-person elements. So there was a lot that had to be adjusted this year to account for COVID and in making sure that what we were putting on was safe for everyone and everyone was taken into account that way. But also we wanted to make sure we were offering programming that was accessible to everyone. So that was definitely a focus in this role. I'm gonna start talking about accessibility. So this year, pronoun graphics were created that can be added to Microsoft as your profile picture, as Microsoft does not allow for you to change your name here, so you can't add pronouns. So pronoun graphics were created and they will be uploaded to the website this coming year with a tutorial as well on how you can add them to Microsoft Office. That way students have an option to use pronouns and they don't have to, to account for the fact that you can't change your name on Teams or your email or what have you. As well, a huge thing that happened, and again, Hannah, God bless, because this was their work. She put so much into this. A disability representative was created as a counselor position and passed at council. So this coming fall, there will be an election for a disability rep on council, which is huge and very exciting. So again, thank you, Hannah. As well, an accessibility checklist was created last year for events, and it was edited this year to account for COVID measures. In terms of, what did I have next on my list? Campus life. So a lot happened this year with campus life as well. I'll start with clubs and societies. So we had to switch things around this year as clubs are usually, part of this role is to host a fall clubs fair and a winter clubs fair. And there was just, when both of those came around, there was no opportunity to have in-person fair. So we took it to Zoom and Teams in first semester and then just Teams second semester. So there was a Google Doc created and every team was invited, or every club and society was invited to participate. We had really great turnout, especially in first semester, and a lot of students engaged and were able to meet clubs that way or get to know different club members that way. So I'm very pleased with how that went. And a side note, the club and societies have done so much this year to make campus life what it was, and despite all the challenges and regulations changing all the time and events having to get canceled, they maintained a really positive attitude, and I'm very grateful for them all and the work they put in. As well, our risk assessment form was created. This is usually something that's only available in residence, but we modified it this year so it worked for clubs and societies. So that was a form available on Teams. That way we ensured that everything that was offered in person was COVID safe. So we did a Q&A to talk about the risk assessment form with club execs and make sure all the information was clear and accessible. We also did, I did a clubs and society executive training at the beginning of the year on Zoom. Yes, Zoom. So they were still able to receive training even though everything had to be moved online. Again, really great attendance. I'm very pleased with that. And then I created a Teams channel specifically for club and society executives. So it was a bit more engaging than email, and I found it worked really well to directly communicate with club and society executives. What else? Oh, so I was talking about campus life. So residence life as well. One of the roles of this position is hosting social caucus. So that looked a bit different this year because residence leaders weren't able to host as many in-person events. And at some points in the year, they weren't able to host any. Another group of people who put in a lot of great work this year, residence leaders, and that maintain a really positive attitude and put in a lot of work for the residents students in their houses. So that was another huge thing. We were able to have one in-person social caucus at the end of the year, which was really exciting. and then we were able to select House of the Year using the events they'd submitted throughout the year. So another really engaged group who improved campus life on so much. I may have skipped over this. A Clubs and Societies handbook was put together by the Campus Life Coordinator, Brandon Pinio, who's put in a lot of work over the past 2 years, and I'm also very grateful for him and his work. So that will be uploaded on the website as well, if it's not already. We were also able to distribute goodie bags to residence leaders as a thank you for all the hard work they did. And then I'll talk about health and wellness. So again, the Health Services Coordinator, Maggie Pickard, has been in this role for 2 years, and she's done so much. A big thing this year was the Mounties Wear Masks campaign and doing a lot of infographics about wearing masks, the testing center, and just making sure that information was there and accessible to students so that, frequently asked questions were answered, and we were providing that information directly to students. And that was really big when the testing center opened. And she also put together a anonymous feedback box so we could get some direct student input from how the testing center worked for students. As well, put together a mental health survey to get direct feedback from students as well on the mental health services offered on campus. And entertainment, Hadley Rawling, our entertainment director, put in a ton of work with the ASCRs this year, and it went so well, and I'm so proud of everything she was able to do this year, and she was a really big help with Pride as well. So we did have a Pride month this year, as opposed to last year was the first year we hosted a week, and this year we did events throughout the month of March, and I'm also very thankful to the Pride Committee and all the work they put in and helped make Pride happen. I'm very pleased with how everything went. We did a lot more education related activities this year, which I think was really cool. I'm very pleased with how it went. A couple other things I'll touch on. Hosted 3 Quo Vadimus sessions this year on various topics related to anti-racism. Those, and then equity, diversity, and inclusion. Those went really well. And I think okay, the final thing I'll touch on, and I'm sorry my section is so lengthy here, but I do believe that a lot of work has gotten done in this position, and I'm very pleased with everyone I've been able to work with who's helped make it all happen. Going forward, I think when we get back to a more normal year, and some of the things that didn't take place this year are able to take place in a more, again, I'll use the word normal way. I think there needs to be more focus on our athletes, and specifically club sports teams, and providing supports to them. I think some of the training sessions we offer could be a little more finely tuned, so that we're getting all the proper training into the proper people. And I think continuing advocacy to improving the physical accessibility of our campus. I know that is something we always strive for, but it's very important. And I think that's where I'm going to end it. I've had a really awesome time the past 2 years being your VP Student Life, and I'm excited to pass the torch on to Hannah and see what next year brings. Thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe. Bye.
Hi everyone, I'd just like to thank you for joining us for the MASU's AGM today. I know this is on YouTube and it's on a virtual setting, so it's a bit different than we regularly would do, but nonetheless, thank you. So today I'm just going to go through a little bit of the Vice President Finance and Operations portfolio. So I'm going to start with a preface, get into some of the internal work that I've done this year, some of the external work, and kind of give you a brief conclusion / overview of the year. So first of all, the Vice President Finance and Operations position is one that is, through its name, it deals with the finances and the operations of the union. So with the finance respect, looking at the budget, presenting the audit, so on and so forth. With the operations, looking at the Constitution, the Articles of Incorporation, the bylaws, the operating procedures, policies, things along that sort. So I've touched on a lot of these aspects of the portfolio this year, but I'll highlight some notable ones for the purpose of this AGM. So first of all, with the internal work, a big part of it has been the bylaws and operating procedures, so policies. And the current state that I inherited wasn't optimal, but it has done the trick for the past year, and we've been currently working on developing them some more. So that's something I hope to continue into my next term and get a lot of student consultation in. And the next part of it is technology. The MASU upgraded its tech this year with new computers, and we also worked to establish the MASU Drive, which basically all the staff, executive counselors can upload their documents onto a web portal on OneDrive, so it's shared and we can all see them. Same with the office staff we have. Next up, I've chaired 4 committees this year, so the 3 normal ones for me would be finance, operations, and human resources. But we established an ad hoc committee called the Governance Review Committee, and that was tasked with looking over some of these bylaws and operating procedures and sort of developing them a bit more. So the governance committee was very successful. We reviewed the bylaws of the organization and worked on getting those up to shape. And there's still some outstanding work there that I'm going to continue into my next term, and specifically in the summer to present to the SAC. So we have a functional and new set of bylaws. Finance committee, this got subdivided into 2 groups this year. There's the financial policy committee and then the grants and award committee. So the first of those worked on sort of a budget policy and a student finance guide, and the second one on awarding clubs and societies and academic enrichment funding. And then the operations committee, like the finance committee, was divided into 2 subgroups. So they worked on a lot of the operating procedures and getting those up to shape as well. And there's some work there that'll continue to be done this coming year. And then human resource committee really did a plethora of things. Some of it was to do with policy, some of it was to do with hiring, and a lot of student feedback on how the MASU could improve our current outreach and hiring in that respect. So those were the 4 committees this year, and they all did great work. And I look forward to continuing on with the 3 regular committees next year, so the finance, operation, and human resource committees. And then another piece of internal work that I've done is mainly financial advocacy for students. So I sat on the budget development group, and on that group, it was basically presenting the student voice as to what the university budget should look like. So the MASU made an advocacy document and presented that to the committee, and a lot of those points were taken, which was a big win for students and a big win for the organization. And we appreciated having our seat at the table and being able to advocate for students there. Another piece of that is the Board of Regents Finance and Administration Committee, which I sit on. So that's a great place to sort of inform the managers of the university as to what the student perspective is to the university finance and their administration piece is, now what's going there. So that's been a great piece to sort of inform the university as to students' concerns and their interests. And then last but not least, I've done some work specific to the graduate studies program this year and presenting financial advocacy on their behalf, which has been very rewarding, and I hope we'll see an expansion in that area of the university in coming years. So the next one is some of the external work that I've been involved with. So one of the big things we took on this year was a sponsorship with the Royal Bank of Canada, and they have done great things for the membership of the union, such as providing student finance sessions, networking sessions. They even collaborated with us at the ASCRS to get a performer there to do some music, which is great, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with them in this coming year. And the next one is the Campus Trust. So this is an organization that is specifically involved with health insurance policies of a bunch of students' unions. So this year I was fortunate enough to serve on their board of trustees and was actually the chair of that organization. And I served on their strategic planning and governance committee. So that was a great experience and a great way to advocate for the students of Mount Allison as to what they think the insurance that they're paying for should look like. So that's some sort of highlights from this year, from the internal and external work that I've been doing. And I would just conclude by saying I'm excited to be stepping into another term and to serve students for another year with a new executive team. And I think there's a lot of work in this portfolio that can be developed upon. And as always, student consultation on items under my portfolio is welcomed and very much encouraged. So if you ever have a comment, a concern, or a question, feel free to email me at masufinance@mounta.ca and I will get back to you. And if you'd like to arrange a meeting, I'm usually in the office, but give me a shout on my email and I'll be sure to respond. So again, thank you for watching the MASU's AGM and all the best of luck with your summer plans. I hope to see your faces around this coming year. Thank you. Bye.
Hi everyone, so my name is Mickey Davey. I was the Vice President Communications on the MASU this year, and I'm going to use my time to briefly talk about our communications strategy, how communications looked a little bit different this year, and sort of like our intentions behind everything that we did this year. So to start off, I'll just talk a little bit about our social media. That was one of our main focuses this year, especially with everything being so online. We were also between websites and getting ready to launch our new website, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But that means we did rely heavily on our social media, primarily our Facebook and Instagram. So those are our two main forms of social media. We use Facebook for larger like info sessions, events, anything like that for student engagement. And then we use our Instagram for everything overall, and we keep all of our infographics there, updates about what the MASU's been up to, calls for volunteers for staff positions, and then all like general opportunities on campus. So we focused on those two main forms of social media. We did have a lot less events this year, obviously with the circumstances, so it was a lot more infographics. We did a lot of, especially on Instagram, did a lot of information about the COVID changes, so changes to the border, changes to operations on campus, in the classroom, stuff like that, and trying to keep all of that up to date with students while everything was changing so quickly. Yeah, obviously it was a pretty weird year, so we used our social media a little bit differently, but that was a great way for us to keep in touch with students, to monitor what students were wondering about, what questions they had, yeah, basically where the confusion was, and then respond accordingly. So we continued on with the MASU newsletters. This year we called it the MASU Monthly. Basically every month we sent out a newsletter via email to all students, and it contained an update from all of the executive positions about the projects that they were working on, updates on the progress that they'd made, and then also just opportunities that were up and coming. We also included information from relevant staff, so we were able to promote the sustainability coordinator Natasha, all of the hard work that she was doing this year, and then also the work of a lot of clubs and societies. So the MASU monthly email was another great way for us to just put out a lot of bulk information and send it out to students in sort of a clear way, and kind of get our announcements out that way every month. As well, my two staff positions were hard at work this year. The first one, the media relations coordinator, she assisted with all of our social media, our newsletters, pressers, and stuff like that, behind the scenes, and then also focused on two main projects. So Molly Park was in charge of all of the Humans of Mount A, that project that we kicked back up this year, and then also the Meet Your MASU, which went through all of our Instagram and our Facebook to the Meet Your MASU was to focus on kind of celebrating the achievements and like also a little job description for all of the staff positions, the counselors, and then the executive that we have on the MASU, especially with those who did a lot of work behind the scenes this year. It was great to get that kind of out and introduce students a little bit more to what the positions actually do and the tangible projects and the progress that they've made this year. And then Molly's second main project, like I mentioned, was Humans of Mount A. So this year we switched it up and we've opened Humans up for nominations. So people got to nominate their friends or anyone that they knew on campus who has a really cool story. And then we were also focusing specifically on stories outside of like academic achievements and like traditional measures of success that we see on campus. So less about like how involved you are and more about like what students are passionate about and the cool things that students are up to on our campus all the time. Because we know that they're there, so we want to find out more. We kicked that off, had our first few human stories, and they were all very cute and interesting, so it was very exciting. And then my other staff members, Amy and Ange from the Allisonian, have been working hard. Again, a weird year, obviously, for events and stuff happening on campus. So for the yearbook, they've had to get pretty creative with getting submissions. Very excited to see that put together. We've had a lot of like submissions of people's Zoom parties, their like virtual events, some of the events that we put on campus, and stuff like that. And then also Ange has been just walking around snapping photos of people, so you might have caught her, she might have caught you in one of those photos. But again, still working on the COVID edition of the yearbook, which will go out this summer. And the last main project, the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the website. I mentioned briefly earlier that we were between websites. So the website overhaul project has been in the works with the MASU exec for the past couple of years. It was a big process, making sure that everything was safe and secure to transfer over, figuring out exactly how we wanted to do it with the new site. And then one of the larger areas was our housing directory, which was custom coded for us quite a few years ago, and built into our old website. So we were figuring out how to continue that so that students could still have access to our housing directory with all of the landlord informations, like available spots off campus and stuff like that. It's a really good interactive website, so that's still there, and it's still housed under like off-campus housing on our new website, but through the old website. So all of those were just the little bits that had to get figured out over the past couple of years. And then this year we were finally able to launch the new website, which is super exciting. So we're using Squarespace. And the whole idea behind the website overhaul was just to update our website. Obviously a big feature for us. It's where we house a lot of our resources and information. And with Squarespace and with just our new website in general, it's a lot more accessible, a lot more user-friendly, and that was kind of the goal. So we got all of the basics up like that, and now we're continuing to just transfer the old information and kind of finish building the website up in that way. Yeah, you can find the website. It's still under the same domain, so it's still masu.ca. And yeah, we've got everything there. Our front page has all of our current like announcements, current ongoing projects, and then we have pages for like academics, athletics, clubs and societies, a whole page on transparency, a whole section on transparency, with all of our governing documents, our budget and stuff like that. So the idea is basically just to keep all of the information in one spot, make it easier for students to see what we do have and what we're still missing. And hopefully find the information there. So we're gonna work on relying a little bit less on our social media for all of the bulk information. Like we were constantly putting out infographics this year, and then try to keep that housed on the website instead. So with that, we also encourage any students to get in touch if you do check out the website and you do see anything missing, or if anything's confusing, or if we're missing any resources or anything like that. If you have any suggestions, the project is still ongoing, so we're still in the process of building it up, but we'd love to hear from you. So just shoot an email to masu@mta.ca and we can work on that. Thank you.
And so that concludes our 2021 AGM. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching through this video in its entirety. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear about what we've been up to and about where our organization is going from here. So with that said, I wish all the best of luck to the incoming team. We know they're going to do a great job this year, and we look forward to hearing what is achieved this year in next year's AGM. So take care, everyone, and have a great summer.